the question that you had directly was, why do you guys trust Rivian? The better question is, should you all trust Rivian? And being that we've all pre-ordered, we've pretty much answered the question, yes, we do. And so we haven't rehearsed any of this stuff. We're just going to speak from the heart here. And let's first of all talk about why we have pre-ordered, why we would go through with it, ultimately why we trust Rivian. Someone jump in.
Investments: Ford, Amazon, BlackRock, T. Rowe Price, Saudi
Cox
Wealth
Automotive.
Fund, Cox Automotive.
Yep.
8.6 or 8-point-ish billion dollars. Amazon, 100,000 electric delivery, last mile delivery vans. A factory with hundreds of cars in the parking lot in Normal, Illinois. The fact that there's so many trucks and SUVs on the road right now, none have a Florida sticker in the back window, and I'm still trying to figure out why a company that started in Florida does not have one R1T with a Florida sticker on the back window driving around right now. But like, they're, I don't know. That's why I trust Rivian.
From when I first placed my pre-order to now, my confidence has increased exponentially. I would even say as of the last month, because every Thursday for like the last month, for the most part, we've been getting some pretty major news. I mean, I'm hoping that trend continues. But what really sealed the deal for me, I think, is the warranty info, right? Like, which you guys just talked about on your last video. I mean, seeing that level of confidence in your product instills a lot of confidence in me. With that said, I'm still wonder how it's going to be being that first year run, right? Like you hear about, I mean, I have a buddy who has a Tesla 3, and if you look at his back door, you can't really notice it until you get a little closer to it. And his back door has a gap that just slowly gets wider as it goes down towards the bottom of the door. I still wonder if things like that are going to happen, you know? But again, as time goes on, I am gaining more confidence, you know, in them, in the ability, number one, to deliver the car, but also just take care of me as a consumer going forward. You know, that and in the addition of guides, you know, you're not getting back on the policy thing, but they say, you know, current deal or auto dealers will continue to provide you great customer service, but I don't think you can beat a guide, you know? I know Jimmy, it's Jimmy, right? You have one like in your back pocket ready to go. Right? But, you know, I mean, I hope I have a great relationship like that with my guide, because I'll tell you, if I have a good guide, you know, I mean, my Land Rover dealer, I love. I mean, I've been with them for almost 12 years at this point, and I wouldn't buy a car from anyone else, just given my relationship, until Rivian came around. And, you know, I'm hoping they can sort of duplicate that experience.
And so, Kyle, I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball.
All right.
So, should you trust Rivian? No. And trust is something that has to be earned, and they haven't actually delivered anything yet. So, yes, I have a lot of confidence in Rivian, in the product, in their plan for the service, everything else, but I can't trust them until they have earned that trust and proven something to me.
Fair enough. I'm with you there. But you do have confidence still. So for you, the question might be, is there anything else from what Jimmy and Jeff said that gives you additional confidence, or do you want to highlight any of those? Or is there any new items that give you confidence? Anything that we haven't covered yet, essentially?
Yeah, I wouldn't say any new items, but what originally gave me confidence was kind of geeking out on the vehicle and looking at what they put together, how they did it, and why. And I mean, the 4 independent motors and the air suspension with hydraulic active damping, and, you know, just a lot of the things that made it an incredible vehicle. So I had confidence in the engineering, and now we're getting details on warranty. And I pre-ordered before the first major outside investment. So watching all of those investments come in in very large amounts from very large organizations that are not going to throw their money away. They're going to do their due diligence. I mean, I'm with Jeff in that my confidence has grown tremendously over time, but I'm still not going to trust until it's in my driveway and potentially I have an issue that they take care of.
Yeah. Yep. But going back to that beginning, I was impressed with the engineering. I had no doubts as far as like the trust issue with engineering, because they had done this stealth mode for a decade, for crying out loud, you know? And then you start researching RJ, and he's got his stuff together. And so the first trust issue I had was money, because I was following the Tesla story, and I realized for the first time ever how much capital it takes, and that the easy part, listening to Elon, is not just getting prototypes. That's easy. Anyone can do that in their backyard. The hard part is this production hell of, you know, the Model 3 in particular, and how difficult it is to line up supply chains to produce at scale for a automaker to stay in business. Because if you follow that whole story, like, Tesla was within weeks from going belly up, even into Model 3, right? I mean, it was just, and so I was going through that whole narrative when I'm starting to kind of date Rivian, and I'm like, oh man, no one can do it. You have to, it's just so difficult. Then that money starts pouring in, and, you know, Jimmy mentioned those at the top of the show, 8 billion. I'm like, okay, well, money's now no longer really a problem for the foreseeable future, like maybe the first few years for sure. And then they're going to sell vehicles on top of that. To me, the other bigger thing besides capital investment, and I agree, Skylar, that they've done due diligence, people much smarter than I am that are literally placing their bet where their trust is. But to me, is leadership. Like, every company rises and falls on leadership. And I don't want to maybe necessarily just talk about RJ, although I do think highly of him as a leader. But the team that they have developed in such a short time, obviously they've grown quickly. But when you look at who he's brought in people from legacy type companies that understand production hell and that understand how to build a vehicle. So that really raised my trust level a big notch. And so money and then leadership were two big things for me. And then the last thing that I've really grown is just the customer experience. I kind of get now why the Tesla people were like, you can only buy Tesla because of the supercharger network. It's just so valuable. And I never thought it was that valuable until I start seeing the Rivian Adventure Network and imagining life with it. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like, you know, so that, and then the guides. So now I have, to Skylar's point, a lot of confidence and hope in the experience and trust that it will come to fruition.
Yeah, and I mean, to add to the Amazon vans too, I mean, this isn't 100,000 vans in a year. I mean, this is 100,000 vans over the next 10 years.
10 years. Mm-hmm.
You know, and they haven't even, that dollar amount, I mean, there's been speculation that it's upwards of what, like $4 billion that's going to bring in for Rivian. But that's 10 years of $4 billion.
Yes.
On top of the R1T, R1S, and they've already got people working on, assuming it's going to be called the R2 and possibly the R3 programs. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they're not resting on just the R1s and the Amazon van right now. I mean, they're already thinking beyond where we are right now.
Yeah, and if you think about some of the early conversation, they were thinking about just the platform, the skateboard, using that for a lot of applications outside of Rivian. Obviously, we heard about the Ford thing there, and at one point it going to
Lincoln.
That was Lincoln.
Lincoln, yeah, and that fell through. Who knows when it comes back around? We know that everything has supply constraints right now, so that might be part of it. Then we've also heard about them like reusing batteries for different use cases after. So they've thought pretty big for sure.
I'm going to add on to a couple of points that you made, Kyle, just with some things that really stood out to me. So the first is leadership. And when you have one of the most successful and iconic business leaders of all time, Jeff Bezos, who there was a quote about RJ, and I don't have it in front of me, but he basically said that that RJ was one of the most visionary leaders that he's seen in his career. That says a lot about RJ, and hopefully, the team and the company that he's going to be able to put together. The second thing that you mentioned was about Ford, and it was also really interesting. There was an article just within the last week where Ford's CEO was talking about the Rivian partnership and how it was anything but a tactical decision, very strategic. I mean, the two organizations are working closely together. Ford is helping Rivian stand up their manufacturing, and that Lincoln SUV was actually supposed to be manufactured, the whole thing in Normal, Illinois at Rivian factory. So not just the skateboard.
That's awesome. Great insights.
I mean, some people might look at it as small potatoes, but thankfully, I have had the opportunity to go to roughly 3 events. Well, not 3 events. I went to New York at the auto show. That's where I pre-ordered back in 2019 in April. Then Nikki and I went to the event in Denver in June. I actually flew Nikki out to Atlanta for that event there when the Cox automotive partnership was made. And then I got the chance to meet Skylar at the Fully Charged Live event in February of 20. And the fact that they bring out not actors, but engineers, people that have had hands on the products, to me shows that not only do they want to show off their product, but they want to put faces or names to faces or faces to names, and so you can actually see the excitement. You're not talking to an actor at an auto show. You're talking to, and I won't name names, but I mean, well, I will name names. You're talking to Brian Gates. I got to meet Brian at the New York Auto Show, and I mean, these aren't small people. These are awesome people that have been with the companies for, Brian's instance, he's been there for I think 11 years now. So it's basically the beginning. It's cool to see, and through all of these events that we've been to meet all these people and to be in contact and shoot them emails and get responses. And
well, we know Jimmy gets responses. I mean,
I had to. I'm sorry. I had to.
Jimmy, all these events, is that where they showered you with all the swag?
With all the swag,
blanketed you,
all of it. Yes,
blanketed.
I don't know. Skylar has some swag, probably sitting right next to him over there. I saw him with that mug on your video today.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, man. I got that in Austin. At the Fully Charged Live event. Yeah. Which was
what's up? Just this is as an aside. How come some people get like I've seen people, I don't know if it's UK or like other parts of the world that are getting like jackets and t-shirts and water mugs and stuff like like stainless steel mugs. There's like almost a whole thread devoted to like swag that just randomly gets sent to people. Like a guy has a Patagonia, like a real, like the ones you see the engineers at these auto shows wearing that, and he's just like, oh, they sent me this package, and he shows the package, and there's a Patagonia jacket in it. Yeah, me too, man.
I'm done.
Jimmy gave somebody the wrong address.
Right? Yeah. Good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, sorry. All I got is the Patagonia Rivian backpack. 2 of them. But,
and the blanket. And the t-shirt, and the water bottle, and the coffee mug, and the other coffee mug. But besides that,
what else? What else am I missing? I guess that's it. Yeah.
Gotta be missing.
I downloaded their media kit for my kids to color on.
What's really cool is the box that the backpacks, the blanket, that they came in is actually the same, like the campground vinyl that the blanket is.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually color the box, repurpose
cool.
the box. So it's
real cool, Jimmy.
Yeah,
Thanks.
So,
twist the knife, Jimmy. Twist the knife.
Yeah. You're welcome.
To bring this back a little bit, and honestly serious here. So one thing that you mentioned, Jimmy, about going to those events, what you do get a feel of there is their culture. And so culture is a big indicator of what makes you trust a company. And culture, honestly, although it sounds pretty frou-frou, it is important to a company surviving. Like the kind of culture they build, not only in terms of for the customer facing culture, but the internal culture, like what we're about. And I think of that screen there on the cold weather testing that said, nothing will stop you. Just the culture that they have built is a reflection of their leadership. It's a reflection of their people. Those intangibles, I think, do count. I mean, it's not just the money that counts. It's the intangibles. Culture can go a long, long way, as we've seen with all the greatest leaders of all time.
I was just going to say, I believe a prerequisite at Rivian is you must love what you do. Because what's interesting, like I follow a lot of the guys, the designers on Instagram. And I mean, if you look at like their Instagrams, all it is sketches of this and sketches of that. And, when you hear a lot of their engineers speaking about it, it's almost like they all live and breathe outdoors. Like they actually know what it is to be someone who wants to go camping. I mean, I'm not much of a camper myself, but watching, some of them in the tents and RJ's photo, I'm like, oh, my kids would love to sleep on top of my car,
Yes.
but it's I think that's like a prerequisite over there. I mean, because everybody definitely sees enthralled and super pumped to just be working on such a, cool product.
Totally agree. Hey folks, thanks for watching. If you get a chance, please check us out at rivianstories.com. And every like, subscribe, and share helps. Thanks again.